Hey ladies, so today's quick mom question is what is pace feeding and why would I need to pace feed my baby? So, pace feeding, if you've never heard of it before, is essentially replicating nursing just with a bottle. So, one of the reasons why you might want to pace feed your baby is if you're trying to work your baby back from the bottle to nursing, then that can be really helpful. It can also just be helpful just to help your baby not overfill or overfeed and also help with any air or gas and sometimes even colic if you pace feed. But you might, now that you know what pace feeding is, you might just be like, okay, great, but how do I actually pace feed? So to pace feed, you will need a slow flow nipple on your baby bottle. And when I was learning about pace feeding and getting bottles myself, I actually was recommended just buying preemie nipples. Like the hole in the nipple is much smaller compared to like size 1 or size 2 that have a faster flow nipple and then feed your baby a lot more. So with a slow flow nipple, it will help with pace feeding because again, we're trying to replicate that whole experience of nursing. So when with pace feeding, the first thing that you want to do before you like to introduce the bottle is you actually want to rub their lips with the nipple because you're trying to again replicate nursing and you want them to actually latch on to the bottle themselves. You don't want to just like force feed them with your baby bottle. So you want to make sure that they're latching of their own accord. I don't want to force feed them if they're not hungry. So by inviting them to nurse or drink milk or how bottle feed, then what we want to do is with nursing, it takes a couple of attempts before they actually receive milk. Not attempts as in latching, but like they have to suckle for a couple of minutes before they actually get milk and have your breast releases a letdown when you're nursing. So with bottle feeding, what we want to do is after they latch onto the bottle and when they're sucking, they're going to get milk, but then you actually want to withdraw the bottle so that way they have time to actually consume the milk. Now this is going to greatly slow down the pace at which they're feeding, but with some babies that for moms that are like trying to that like maybe they were bottle feeding and they're trying to get back to nursing, they'll notice that their baby's really frustrated at the breast because it's taking too long for their body to provide a letdown because their baby needs to latch and nurse for a few minutes before they get milk, and their baby is so used to getting that milk so quickly from a bottle that they don't have patience, they don't want to wait. So by pace feeding, you're already setting that expectation with your baby and you're kind of helping them understand like, hey, this is not a quick feed, this is going to take some time. And by giving them some time to actually like consume their milk, they're going to then have better cues of knowing like, oh, they're full, and then they're not going to be overfed and spit up everything or have a problem with drawing in too much air while they're feeding through a bottle because they're feeding too quickly. So again, with pace feeding, we're inviting them to latch onto the bottle. We're giving them a few minutes at the bottle. For me, I did like 3 or 4. Like you can kind of see their mouth sucking out the milk, and then I pulled and withdrew the bottle back, gave them a few minutes to swallow, and then repeated the process until they were done. Now again, we're not overfeeding them, so if they're not interested in latching onto the bottle, even if they don't finish what's in their bottle, then that's your cue to stop feeding them, because that's what's going to happen when they're nursing. They're going to kind of like unlatch and act like they're not interested, and you don't know when you're nursing how much they have consumed because there's no measurement, right? So just if you personally are like, oh, well, my baby has to have a certain amount of ounces at each feeding or whatever, like kind of just like keep in your mind too that you're not going to know how much they're having when they're nursing, and that if they're acting like they are full, then it might be time to to stop feeding them. Now if your baby needs to have or needs to meet certain milestones or metrics, maybe because they are underweight or they're not thriving as much as their doctor would like them to be, this is definitely a conversation to have with your individual pediatrician. I'm not a doctor, I'm just a mom, but maybe one thing to ask them if your baby is not showing hunger cues: does my baby have to consume this many ounces per feeding, or can I just add in more feedings throughout the day more often to get a certain amount of ounces in your baby within a certain like 24-hour period, and see if maybe that's something that they'd be comfortable with, because again, if you're nursing, you don't know how much your baby is consuming. So let me know if you have any additional questions about pace feeding. I do hope that this helped you, but if you have a question for a future episode, here we actually take questions from moms for moms, quick questions like this, and also some more like longer, challenging topics. So I'll link up an episode with other quick questions for the baby stage. But if not, then hopefully we'll hang out again in the next one soon. So today's quick mom